This is Nic Baisley from FilmSnobbery.com. I'm here at the Orlando Film Festival. I'm here with one of the board members of the Orlando Film Festival,
Sylvia Caminer.
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Sure.
What prompted you to want to get on the board of a festival like this, or any festival for that matter? I mean, how did you get involved?
Well, I moved to Florida 9 years ago. I'm a New York filmmaker. And I thought, the only way I'm really going to get to know the community and the people is to get involved in these types of events. And so I know Dan Springen. We shot a pilot for a show in Hawaii. And when Dan became the executive director, he's like, hey, Sylvia, why don't you kind of join the fun? And I thought, great, count me on. I love watching independent films. I've, traveled to festivals all over the world. So it seemed like a great idea.
What are some of the responsibilities of a board member of a film festival? I mean, I know I'm on the advisory board of a film festival, and I have a couple specific jobs that I do. Is there anything in particular that that Dan puts you in charge of, or is it more of from a programming or any other standpoint? What do you do?
Well,
what would you say you do here?
I do. Well, if you asked me a year ago, I'd have a better answer. This year, I've been out filming. I'm producing and directing a feature doc. So I got back Tuesday, and the festival started Wednesday. But, we do have meetings every month. And when we get closer to the festival, sometimes a couple times a month, and we have screening committees. And so if I had been here the year prior, I was on the screening committee to help pick the films, and then also on the awards committee. And then just really being friendly, being an ambassador for the festival and trying to, greet filmmakers, greet your VIPs, and even just the regular audiences. So it's really just about being friendly.
As an established filmmaker, you see a lot of first-time filmmakers here. You're interacting with a lot of first-time filmmakers. What is the best piece of advice that you can give to some of the first-time filmmakers, or even second-time filmmakers that are here trying to break into something a little bit bigger, or trying to work more consistently, possibly even make $1 or $2 off their films?
The big thing is networking. And I see a lot of filmmakers are handing out the cards, and that's good. You really want to have a packed house. Because if you have a packed house and people love your film, the word gets out. And it's a small industry, so people, wow, did you hear about that film at Orlando? Everyone loved it, and it was packed, and they sold out. So that's important. And then really it's just about kind of knowing your target audience and knowing kind of who you're pitching to. And, obviously if there's, any type of press or, distribution potential, it's really that. And then just meeting potential people to work with in the future, whether there's potential executive producers that might have some funding, get them to see your movie. If they like it, they might ask you, what are you doing next? Or other producers, actors. My gosh, we have Alison Brie and Haley Joel Osment here. So Olympia Dukakis, say hello. Yeah. Don't hand them a script maybe at the party, but say hello.
Yeah, Jerry. No, kidding. He did. Yeah. Now.
Then they can watch it on the plane right home.
Now, as a documentary filmmaker, I'm here. There are a lot of great documentaries that we were seeing here at the Orlando Film Festival. I've noticed that documentary as a genre seems to be really big. I was recently in New York City. I was at the Conversation. I was speaking there, and if you were to count the number of documentary filmmakers in the audience, it made up like 90% of the audience. Why do you think that is?
Well, I do remember a couple years ago reading. I was trying to raise money for a doc, so you got to come up with your information to help pitch to money people. And documentaries were the fastest growing genre in the business. I think it's this whole fascination with reality television. And the thing that, documentaries are at least a little bit more real. They're not put on. We don't say, okay, you don't tell contestants what to do. And I think people they want to know what's real. And nowadays with these easy cameras, everyone almost feels like a documentary filmmaker. So I think people it's an accepted movie right now. Like people will pay money to go see a movie. Whereas when we had great filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, and even in the 70s and 80s, they were very avant-garde. Nobody was really going out to see them. Maybe some people were renting their movies, but I think nowadays, and I think Michael Moore, is he a documentary filmmaker? I'm not sure. He's more of a filmmaker who happens to tell stories but he's shown how you can make documentaries very entertaining, and then other War Dance, and just some of these beautiful docs. You can walk out of a film and you feel like, oh my gosh, I have a whole new vision on the world. So I think it's just that fascination with true stories.
Now, we were over at the we were here at the festival. We were on a panel together called In and Out of Hollywood, and it was, Dan asked us a few questions, and then we went to the audience with kind of a Q&A style type of situation, which I thought was really good. I thought it went well. Now, if you're like me, I've done a couple of those myself. I'm sure you've done several. My question is there ever one question? I mean, I don't know if you're like me, as you're watching everything. People asking these questions, and you're always saying that I really wish they would ask this one question because I have something to offer. Is there one question that you've never been asked on a Q&A that you wish someone would ask because it would really open a dialogue that you feel would go farther?
Wow, that's a good question.
This is what I do.
I know, I can tell. All right, you guys, listen up. The hardest questions are like, tell us a funny story, because you can never think of. You're like, want to entertain. I know. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, can I make something up if I can't think of something? But, I think although people do ask, how did you get something to happen? Or maybe about the magic of when, maybe it's when you have something. Because we've all worked on projects where you're shooting, and then suddenly, I can remember on the documentary I shot in Africa, in Tanzania, we were 2 weeks into the documentary. It was pretty light, and then suddenly we captured this moment, and the DP looked at me and he said, "You have a film." And I think that maybe to talk about that genesis of when a project starts as an idea where it's intellectual and then it becomes real. And how do you know when you have something that maybe has a chance, You
go from the "let there be light" to, and it was good. So. You're here this year. You're also a working filmmaker. What's the next projects? What are the next projects you have kind of in the hopper? I mean, if you'd like to plug anything that you're working on, and will you be involved in the festival next year?
Unless they kick me off the board, I'll be here. I love this festival. First and foremost, I'm a producer for independent fiction films. That's how I tend to make my living, because documentaries, we're not getting rich on. We're doing them for passion. I also do stuff for Discovery and Travel Channel, that type of TV type stuff. But, I have Tanzania Friendship Journey, which is a documentary I shot in Africa, which is finishing up. And then I have a documentary about Rick Springfield. But it's really about his underground fans and why a guy like Rick Springfield has these devoted fans, like the way people used to follow the Grateful Dead around. These women, professional women, some men, 30 to 50, just follow them around the world. And then I have a couple of fiction films. One I'm supposed to shoot in Puerto Rico, a 3D kind of horror action film called Digger, a comedy called Sam. Just some really, it's so hard right now to raise money. I was at an independent screening 2 weeks ago in California, in Santa Monica, and it was a Robert Duvall film. And I mentioned this in our board at the panel, and I'm not exaggerating. He literally said probably, I want to say 5 times, it was more than 3. It's impossible nowadays to raise money. I have all these great projects, so it's all about what I can get off the ground, what we're going to, I have talent that, 2 years ago would have been enough. So, it's just a couple of interesting projects. I have a film that I want to direct that I wrote called The Exchange. So hopefully the docs will get out there. I'll get a couple of these fiction films off the ground. I'll make a living, and you'll see me here next year.
Well, not only do I hope to have you here next year, I hope I'm here with you next year. We can talk about how these projects are going. And
if I'm on food stamps.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you and me both. I'm there. Well, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us, Sylvia. And I want to thank you for participating at the festival. I want to thank you for being on the panel with us and being part of that conversation, because it was awesome. And good luck on your future endeavors with your films, both documentary and otherwise.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.